Hello, everybody. This is a very special episode because this is going up next Friday, and you know what next Friday is?
No.
It's our friend-iversary!
Oh! She got me there.
It's okay, it's been a long week. But we have been friends for
A long fucking time.
either 13 or 14 years, we don't know.
We tried.
So I want to tell you the story real quick about how we became friends. We were at the carnival in town.
Separately.
I come up to her and I see her eating a funnel cake, and I took her funnel cake. And I said, hey, can I have a bite? And she said, sure. Next thing she knows, I've eaten half of it.
Because I had met her before.
Through a mutual friend.
Like, I just happened to be walking by and her friend was like, hey! And so I was talking to her and then she was there. And then she saw me at the carnival and was like, oh, I'm gonna go eat your funnel cake.
And then a few days later, this is when we're going into freshman year. So we were 13. So I guess it'll be 13 years since we're 26 now. 13? I don't know. She was riding her bike up to the library, and I was just riding my bike around town. And I see her, and I go up to her, and I say, hey, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm just going to the library to use their Wi-Fi. And I was like, no, you're not. I got Wi-Fi at my house. Let's go. And she was like, okay. And that's basically how it all started. I asserted my dominance, and here we are 13 years later. She came over and she just never left.
Sure did. I'd come over, I'd eat ramen noodles.
Remember when you had that waffle kick?
Oh, when I was pregnant?
Yeah. I would literally just buy boxes and boxes of waffles.
I was not pregnant in high school. This was
No.
after we graduated.
No. But it will have been 13, I'm assuming, years. And that's literally like half of our lives.
We've been around each other a long time.
And we haven't died yet.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, there's been many close occurrences, like...
If we make it out of here alive, we're gonna live every day to the fullest.
The one time when we were crossing the highway and you were on your phone texting and a semi came, and I was like, Carly! And she was looking at her phone texting, and finally I grabbed the back of her neck and I just yank her back, and the semi honks its horn as it's going past us. And
Age 12.
And she was like, oh.
And then there was another time, and I don't remember the specifics, that I pulled you out of the road. And then you were like, hey, we're even.
There's been a lot of us pulling each other out of the road because we don't look both ways. It's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but we're here, aren't we? So you're blessed to get another serial killer monthly. I don't know if it's blessed as much as plagued, but you don't have a choice if you're already watching this. I'm not allowing you to click out.
You must stay. Keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times.
Oh yeah, someone asked me what exactly this is that we drink every single time we record. It is a delicacy in this household. I drink it every single day. Ice cubes, chocolate syrup, and mocha iced coffee, like the kind that comes in the box. Carton.
Comes in a box.
But without further ado, another Serial Killer Monthly. We're talking about the Ripper Crew. And if you're from the Peoria area, stay tuned to the end because you're gonna want to hear this, if you don't already know. Now, before they became a group, there's not really much known about any of them for that matter. So there's not really an early life, so this one's gonna be a little bit different. We're going to talk about their forming of the group instead of their early life. This leader was Robin Gecht, and he had 3 associates or friends, whatever he wanted to call them. There was Edward Spritzer, I think I'm saying that right, brothers Andrew and Thomas Kokorales, don't know if I'm saying that right, and during this whole forming, Robin Gecht said he wanted to make Charles Manson look like a Girl Scout. We've covered Charles Manson before in a cult video, so if you want to go see that, that is in the cult playlist on the channel. If you want to go see it, learn more about him. He was also fucked up. They became an organized crime group of serial killers, cannibals, necrophiliasts, and rapists. I'm gonna put a trigger warning in right now. This is very vulgar. If you don't like that, you need to leave.
Like, real bad.
Yeah.
Like, I was reading over the notes and I was like...
I spared some of the details, okay? But some things you just have to add in to know the effect. It's also alleged that they took place in these satanic cults. I don't know if they were actually satanic or not, because I don't want to offend anyone who is a Satanist. I don't know if their rituals were in fact satanic or not, or just...
People like to throw that word around.
Yeah. So I don't know for sure, because I've looked at a million different websites, saw a million different things. Possibly satanic, I don't know for sure.
He and the 3 other members of the Ripper crew terrorized the city and suburbs in the early 80s. They're believed to have murdered as many as 20 women, raping and torturing them as part of a satanic communion.
And like I said, not much is known about any of them before the group actually formed. Robin Gecht, the leader, was an employee of PDM Contractors. And if that sounds familiar, it's because we've talked about it before in another Serial Killer Monthly, because it was John Wayne Gacy's construction company. So Robin Gecht was an employee for John Wayne Gacy, and it's possible that he had a close association with him, and that's where he got his ideas and his messed up thinking from. So now we've not only involved the Ripper crew, we have Charles Manson involved, we have John Wayne Gacy involved. This man did not have very good friends. And Robin had also been accused of molesting his sister. That was never proven or denied. I also want to add in that I mainly got this information from Chicago newspapers like the Chicago Tribune, but a lot of these places also said different information. So like their ages, where they were found exactly was different, so I did the best that I could, and I apologize if I did get anything wrong.
The first victim of the Ripper crew was 28, possibly 26-year-old Linda Sutton. She was a single mother. She was abducted on May 23rd, 1981. 10 days later, her body was found in a suburban field in Villa Park, Illinois. Her body was found mutilated and her left breast was amputated.
And then the gang did not murder again until almost a year later. On May 15th, 1982, Lorraine Borowski was abducted in the early morning hours while opening the realtor's office where she worked as a secretary in the Chicago suburbs. She was 21 years old. Outside her work, she was grabbed and dragged into a van, and her shoes were found outside her workplace. They drove her to a nearby motel where they then raped her and then killed her. 5 months later, her body was discovered in a cemetery in Clarendon Hills.
On May 29th, Shuey Mock was abducted from Hanover Park, a village northwest of Villa Park. She was 30 years old. At the time, she was arguing with her brother while driving home from work at their family restaurant. She ran from the car into Hanover Park and vanished. Her body was missing for 4 months. One day, her beaten body was found in a suburban construction site. That also seems like a common place where they get bodies.
2 weeks after they had abducted Shui, they picked up Angel York in their van. They handcuffed her and slashed her breast before throwing her out of the van, still alive. Later, she said a red van was cruising and stopped near her while she was walking down the sidewalk. She was told to cut her own breast with a sharp knife in exchange for mercy. She testified that when her shaking hand slashed her own breast, one man went into a frenzy, grasping her hand and plunging the knife into her chest. He then masturbated into the bleeding wound on her chest and duct taped her wound, and they pushed her out of the van into the gutter. She did end up surviving.
That was the thing that I read, where I was like, what? For 2 months, the gang didn't attack, kidnap, or kill anyone. On August 28, 1982, the body of 18-year-old Sandra Delaware was discovered under the Fullerton Avenue Bridge on the North Branch of the Chicago River. She had been stabbed and strangled, and her left breast had been amputated.
On September 8th, Rose Davis was found in an alley with almost identical injuries as Sandra. She was a 30-year-old marketing executive from Broadview. Her body was found in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood, and it was determined she had been raped, beaten with an axe, and fatally stabbed.
On October 6, 1982, 28-year-old Rafael Tirado was at a phone booth with his friend, 18-year-old Alberto Rosario. Rafael was a local drug dealer.
I'm just gonna say this right now. Don't give your kids Bible names and then not give them Bible lessons. I'm tired of Moses robbing people. I'm tired of Raphael dealing drugs to people. I'm tired of Adam and Eve committing arson.
Was that all?
Yep.
Okay. So Raphael was a local drug dealer. The gang did a drive-by and shot at Tirado and Rosario. Gecht took 2 guns from the back of the car, told Spritzer to stop the car, and opened fire, hitting both of them. Rosario ended up surviving his injuries, and Tirado ended up losing his life at the hospital. He was the gang's only male victim.
On the same day the gang's final crime was committed, Robin Gecht lured a prostitute, Beverly Washington, to his car. He offered her more money than what was asked of him, and she was found by a railroad track in Chicago's Humboldt Park. Her left breast had been amputated and her right one was severely slashed. She survived the attack and was able to give descriptions of the events leading up to her being left at the railroad tracks, along with details of the van.
The first time Gecht was arrested, the police had to release him because they had insufficient evidence that connected him to the crimes. The police investigated further and found that in 1981 he rented a room in a motel with 3 friends with 3 adjoining rooms. The hotel manager told them that they had loud parties and they seemed to be in some type of cult. On October 20th, 1982, Robin Gecht was arrested after his van was connected by police to an October 6th attack. Several days later, he posted bond and was released. He was re-arrested on November 5th. Edward Spritzer and the Cocorales brothers were tracked down. Later, Gecht was indicted and ordered to be held on a $1 million bond. He and Spritzer confessed to up to 17 murders. 3 days later, they were indicted and held without bond. Thomas Cocorales was arrested on November 12th. When he was interrogated, he confessed that he and his friends had taken women back to Gecht's place, which they had called a satanic chapel. There, they raped and tortured women and amputated their breasts with a wire garrote. Cocorales said they would eat parts of the severed breasts as a kind of sacrament, and that Gecht would masturbate into the breasts before putting them in a box.
Gecht was the only member to maintain his innocence. I don't know how. He was never tried for any of the murders due to a lack of evidence.
That really pisses me off. Every time they're like, well, but you just know that they did it, and then they're like, well, we can't really prove it.
Yeah. In 1983, he was convicted of attempted murder, aggravated kidnapping, deviant sexual assaults, and rape for the non-fatal rape and assault of Beverly Washington. He was sentenced to 120 years in prison. Before the sentencing, Judge Francis J. Mahan told him only a devil would do these things. An animal would not do these things. A monster would. He also pointed out that he's lucky he wasn't on trial for murder since he had left Beverly Washington to die and she didn't end up dying. If she did end up dying, he would be on trial for murder, if they ever found out that it was connected to him. He is serving his sentence at the Danville Correctional Center. His projected parole date is October 10th, 2042, and he will be 88 years old. What a fucking man.
Keep him in there at that point.
Yeah, for real.
In 1984, Spritzer pled guilty to the murder in the deaths of Shui Mock, Rose Davis, Sandra Delaware, and Raphael Tirado, as well as attempted murder, aggravated kidnapping, deviant sexual assault, and rape in a bid for leniency. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 1986, he was convicted of murder and aggravated kidnapping in the death of Linda Sutton. They sought a death sentence. During the sentencing, his attorney, Carol Anfinson, argued that he was immature, impulsive, and simplistic, and was just following the orders of the gang leader, Robin, and said he would do anything to please his friend. He was sentenced to death.
That's a bad friend right there. I would not do anything to please you. I would not kill someone to please you.
I hope not. In 2003, his sentence was changed to life in prison without parole because Governor George H. Ryan commuted the sentences of everyone on death row in Illinois. Give it back.
Boo.
Give us back the death sentence. Andrew Cocorales was the governor's only execution just over 2 months into his administration. He was the last inmate executed in Illinois almost 12 years before Governor Pat Quinn signed legislation to abolish the death penalty on March 9th, 2011.
Dang, I was 13 years old when the death penalty got disconnected.
disconnected. Did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in?
Did you try putting it in rice? In 1985, Andrew was convicted of murder, aggravated kidnapping, and rape in the death of Rose Davis. The prosecution also sought a death sentence. His attorney said Andrew was a follower, not an organizer, not the prime mover in Rose's murder. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. I think an hour and a half is a long time. They decided to give him life in prison without parole instead of the death sentence. On March 18th, 1987, he was convicted of murder and aggravated kidnapping in the death of Lorraine Borowski. On April 30th, 1987, he was sentenced to death. On March 17th, 1999, he was executed by lethal injection.
I feel like that's the easiest way.
Probably.
Like out of all the different ways they've used.
The gas chamber, the electric chair, lethal injection, hanging.
Because I feel like lethal injection, you're just like, you're asleep and then you're gone.
There's that one where it's, you're in a line and your back is turned and like one guy has a gun and one by one they just kill you.
That'd also be pretty quick, but you'd just be absolutely terrified.
Yeah, you'd be panicking. He declined a last meal. Don't know why. His last words were, "To the Borowski family, I am truly sorry for your loss. I mean this sincerely." Then he cited verses from the biblical books of Exodus and Proverbs and added, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand."
I don't think that's where you're going, friend.
Yeah, I don't think so. The Kokoralis brothers were raised Greek Orthodox, and the Orthodox Church even tried to stop Andrew from getting the death penalty. They obviously failed, but
They didn't do too well.
they tried.
Thomas was convicted of murder and rape in the death of Lorraine Borowski. Because of his detailed confession, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. There was an appeal to the rape conviction and it ended up getting reversed and he got a new trial on his murder conviction. Instead of facing a retrial, he pled guilty to Borowski's murder in exchange for a 70-year sentence. Which I don't know why. You had a life in prison and you switch it to 70 years. It's not that big of a difference.
No.
Either way, you're probably going to die before you get out. The Linda Sutton murder charges were dismissed as part of the plea agreement. On September 30th, 2017, he was scheduled to be paroled but was denied release after he failed to find an approved place to live. On March 29th, 2019, he was released from prison.
Kokoralis confessed and eventually cut a deal, pleading guilty to only one murder, Lorraine Ann Borowski. Her family called her Lori, 21 years old and snatched out of her shoes. Kokoralis got 70 years in prison, but under old Illinois sentencing guidelines known as day for day, he was allowed to serve just half for good behavior. His brother was the last man to be executed in Illinois.
In an interview with WBBM TV, he said, "Everybody thinks I'm a monster. I'm not a monster."
Everybody thinks I'm a monster.
He got out of prison after serving just half of his sentence, and we got a look inside his new life at Wayside Cross Ministries in Aurora.
As of 2024, Kokoralis currently lives in Peoria, Illinois. At the time of his arrest, he was a painter with no criminal record and had an IQ of 75. That's not good.
You know where we're from?
Guess.
And you know where this man resides?
You don't have to guess because I just told you.
I was stuck doing the time for something I didn't do.
Lorraine's murder, all of the other women that you were accused of being involved with their murders, you were not involved? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
The fact that these women were mutilated and tortured as some sort of ritual, is that true?
No.
There were allegations that there was cannibalism. That true?
No.
Did you have any knowledge of that happening?
Like I said, no.
Rape and torture. You have any involvement in that?
No, ma'am. I looked in your eyes and I'm telling you, honest God's truth. No. I have no participation, no knowledge. I have no participation in none of these crimes. None. None.
Kokoralis says he confessed to police because he was on drugs and officers fed him information about the crimes.
The prosecutor said that you knew details that only someone would know if they had been there.
No, what they told me. Like a dumb fool, I repeated right back to him.
So you feel you were coerced into saying
Yes.
He even says he has an alibi for Lori's murder. He was with his father visiting his mother's grave. Cocorales says he only pleaded guilty because his lawyer pressured him.
And I found out from my wonderful friend Rob that he's living in a homeless shelter. And it's apparently the only place in the state that would take him.
Yeah, somebody started sharing on Facebook about him because they wanted to bring awareness that he lives in the area and to not just like strike up a conversation with this guy or something. And so then I saw it and I sent it to her, but she had already seen it and she was like, I know, I saw. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, he got out in 2019 and then he went somewhere else and then he got transferred here because this was the only place that would take him. He's only 64 years old. If his sentence didn't get changed, he probably would have died in prison. And now he's out. And I get that they're like, oh, he's old, he's not going to do any harm. You don't know that.
I'm much calmer now. I'm nicer. Not mean. I was having a bad attitude.
Someone said they saw him on a city bus last week. But anyway, yeah, this guy's out in Peoria. He did horrible things. And I'm not going to forgive him for doing those horrible things. And I just want to let you guys know, if you were in the Peoria area, be careful. Especially downtown. And if you're by yourself.
If you look up his name on Facebook, a bunch of stuff will pop up. Like with his mugshot and so on and so forth.
Remember, just because he's old does not mean he's not dangerous. Because
he might not be fast. He might not be as strong as he once was. Doesn't mean a whole lot.
Does not matter if he's armed.
Thomas Cocorales is a sex offender, a convicted killer, linked to one of the most terrifying times in Chicago history.
So with that being said, I believe we only have one Serial Killer Monthly left. And we're ending on your month.
Yep.
We're not going to tell you who it is yet, but you'll see next month. And
it's one that I find fairly interesting.
We've saved the best for last. And if you enjoyed watching this, we have an entire playlist of serial killers on this channel. Carrie Richardson's gonna run.
Your mom.
And if you enjoyed this, go and check those out. And we will see you next month if you want to watch the next Serial Killer Monthly. But we'll see you next week. If maybe, I don't know. We'll see you in the next video.
We'll see you the next time we see you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
I love how you grunt. You're like,
Hey.